Welcome. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm waiting to see when it tells me I'm actually live. I'm never quite sure if there is a delay there. Now it's telling me. So I guess there is a little bit of a delay. So welcome. Let me know if you're here and give me a thumbs up or a comment or whatever. So let's show you what's going on here today. Let's see. Air conditioner just went on. It is hot, hot, hot outside. I just went upstairs and checked it out, and I think it's 90 degrees out there. So of course we're going to get our hot weather in August, but we did have a really nice downpour yesterday afternoon. So that was a welcome relief to the plants and things. Hi Linda, welcome. So I am going to get started because there's so much to talk about today. And considering that last week we had not launched the new mini catalog yet, so now it's live, and turn the camera down and I can show you what's going on. So if you don't have one of these yet, that also includes our summer celebration, then please let me know. Hey Rose, you made it today. Wonderful. So I am going to be demonstrating out of the Merriest Moments today, but I've got a little twist on what I'm going to do. But I want to talk first about the celebration. This is a first time ever. Hey Fran, welcome. We normally have it in January and February after people are trying to get motivated after Christmas, but now we've got one to get us motivated for Christmas. How about that one? So anyway, we've got celebration that started last week through the end of September, and as usual, it's where you can earn free items with a $50 purchase, or there are a couple that are $100. Hi Sue, hi Carol, welcome. I did sneak peek a couple things a few weeks ago, I guess, and that was the bedazzling specialty paper, which is awesome. These were the cards that I did that day with that bedazzling here, and this was this was a Christmas set too, but in the background you can't really tell it's Christmas, and besides, happy birthday is any time of the year. So that bedazzling is wonderful. And I don't know if you've noticed, but we don't sell glitter anymore. It was a love-hate relationship with glitter, so people either loved it or they hated it because it was messy. But now we've got a lot of blingy things. So if you look through the catalog, through here, because none of this will flake off, but it adds so much dimension and bling. Look at that shine. Woohoo! Okay, so that's one of the free things. We have Penguin Playmates designer paper that coordinates with the Penguin Place bundle from the mini catalog. And I don't have that one just yet. And we have Feels Like Home, which is kind of like a nice background stamp set. That wasn't on my initial list, so I don't have that. The beautifully penned designer paper is beautiful. It coordinates with the hand-penned petals bundle from the annual catalog, and it is, oh, it's so nice. It's black and white, and we love black and white, and you can color it so easily. And next is Peaceful Prints 12 by 12 paper. Again, these have all been $50, and that coordinates with the Peaceful Deer bundle, which is a stamp set, and this cute little deer punch, also from the mini catalog. And then these are two $50 items, but they go together, and that's the counting sheep and the dies to go with it. So you could have the stamp set without the dies, and that would be fine. But this includes that cute little banner, a balloon, some clouds, a little party hat, and of course the fence, which is really cute. So I guess if you put, put those two together, it could be $100. And then a cute little textures and frames. It's always a good idea to have texture added to a background. Nicole, welcome, thank you. Added to your background of your card. And then here is a $100 item, Summer Shadows. And this coordinates with the shaded summer stamp set from the annual catalog that did not include any dies with that set. So this coordinates with that, and that's $100. And last but not least is probably my favorite. I was going to demonstrate with this one today, and then I changed my mind. So you'll be seeing that one, but this is gorgeous, and that's $100. These beautiful dahlias. And brings us to the host rewards. And with this one, you can get a free host set with a $300 order, or combined with family and friends, and still get the still get the host rewards that goes with a regular workshop of 10%. But to get this is $300. So a bump up with that a little bit. And then the last page here is if you've ever considered joining Stampin' Up. Again, no obligation to continue, but a lot of people join as what we call happy shoppers because they get 20% off all of their purchases. And that allows you to join Stampin' Up for $99. You get $125 in that tiny print. If you can't read it here, you can check your catalog, but $125 in product, and that includes shipping, and you only pay the tax on that. Something to think about. It's always a good idea. And during celebration, yes, choose any of these bundles listed below from the July-December mini catalog. Again, this is a celebration incentive, and there are 12 different bundles there that are, I think they range, I think the highest one might be 60 some dollars, and they're bundles. They're not whole suites, they're just bundles. So think about it. If something you might want to do to become a happy shopper, let me know. All right, let's get started. And the stamp set that I'm going to use today is called Merriest Moments. It's on page 43, and the reason this drew me is when we got the annual catalog and I first saw that we had a hybrid embossing folder, and that is an embossing folder that cuts and embosses at the same time. I was so excited. When I saw that we had one in this catalog, that was obviously one of the first items that I ordered on my pre-order. So I thought I would start off with this one since we can now show the inside of the catalog. It's awesome. So if you're getting ready for Christmas, it's probably not too early. I know at least one of you who's watching today is doing that. I'm not quite there yet, but you know, it's not too early to start thinking about the holidays and what you might want to make, whether it's for cards or home decor items or whatever. But let me talk about this hybrid. It's a little bit different than the one that was with the In Bloom stamp set from the annual catalog. And down here at the bottom, this bundle is 10% off when you purchase it as a bundle, but it includes the stamp set, the embossing folder, which is a the hybrid, and I've got hybrid on here on my little note, and the dies that come with it. And that's $54. Not only that, that could qualify for a celebration item. Now, these are the dies that I have left in here are the ones that go with these little flowers. Anything that's not a sentiment is going to have a die with it. And over here, which I have taken off, Oops, there's one that didn't make it over to here. Are the ones that work with the embossing folder. So that was my exciting part. So let's put those away and then show you this. So that's pretty much what I'm going to concentrate on today. These are the other 3 dies that come with this bundle. This I will explain in a minute, and this and this. So if you look in the catalog, you'll see that this is the die that is designed to go inside this frame. I got it going in the right direction this time. And it kind of snaps in. Our hybrid dies will always be at the end that have the Stampin' Up! Logo on the cover. Okay, so that would be considered the front. And it kind of snaps in, whereas this one, you might think, is going to do the embossing, but it won't snap in there. It will not go in. That does other things. Also very good. This one I found does snap in, and it does work when used with this. So let me give you a little demonstration here. Let's put this away. And get my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine up here and just show you how this actually works, because I think this one is a little bit different than the In Bloom one. Okay, move things out of the way. I've got so many things here. Put that out of the way. All right, so with a 3D embossing folder, you use plate 1, and if you have another die cutting machine, whatever your sandwiching would be for the thicker embossing folder, you probably would figure that out. But with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss, it's plate 1, and then you put in, and I'm using a half sheet of basic white paper here. So this is going to be a little bit bigger than absolutely necessary, but you'll see why in a minute. So that is in here like this. And I will make sure I've got that straight. And I've got the center part in there as well. Now this is going to cut and emboss at the same time. So if you've not seen this before, or you didn't see it when I demonstrated when we got the annual catalog in May, you'll get the idea how this works. You want it hinge side in first, and then you put plate 4 on top. This is the one that goes with the 3D embossing folders. Any 3D embossing folder, whether it's this one or not. Okay, and then slide that through. And you hear that nice little sound that tells you it's done. And this is what we get. Okay, this is still here. This is down here. And let me pull this off. And for the moment, put the embossing folder back there. All right, so this is what comes out. It is cut and embossed at the same time. Now what I found, and I wasn't sure that this would actually go through, what I found when I was playing around with this is that the basic white paper is a little bit thinner than our regular colored cardstock. So this does cut out. I wasn't sure that it would on the darker colored card or any other colored cardstock. So I wasn't sure that this would actually work in there. You can always put this back on after and run it through. Trouble is, then you lose some of this part here. But that is beside the point. This is just an extra little piece actually. However, this, let me get that out of the screen here. This one has all the fine detail. So this is fine. You could use this. I'll show you some samples with just this. But this kicks it up, and you put this over top of that part that's already embossed, and then run that through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss, and this is what you get. Now the sandwich is a little bit different because we're actually cutting. So we need a plate 1, a 2, which is this little thin one for the thin dies, and that's all we have anymore anyway. A plate 3. Now I want to put this down, and I'm using white today just to show the contrast of what I'm going to show next. Put this down, and then another 3 to slide on there. And crank it through, and that wants to slide around. Okay. Now keep in mind it's still embossed, but now, move that out of the way again. Now we get the detail with all of these little pieces, parts, and this we don't really need anymore. And all these little pieces, parts kind of pop out of there. So that gives you the fine detail with this. Okay, so just kind of letting that sink in a little bit, which I really like. And it kept all the detail of the embossing. All right, now this was my next little aha moment. If you ever want to get all of your little pieces out of here, you can just drop that down on your plate, and then pick anything out with your take a pick tool. Shirley, yes, you do need all of those plates because, and it depends. If you have a Cuddle Bug or one of the old style Big Shots that we used to carry before we got our own machine, the sandwiching might be different, but what you need to have is enough pressure. I'll bring this back up here again. You need to have enough pressure to put that through. So that's why you need enough plates to make it work. So if you have the Stampin' Cut and Emboss, it does come with all of these plates that are needed. The 4, 2 3s, a 2, and a 1. Those are the basic parts to cut the dies and emboss with the folders. And here is all the information. I'll turn it around so maybe it's not upside down, at least it's not upside down for me, that tells you exactly what you need to do. So these do come with the machine. So to answer your question, yes, it all depends on the sandwiching. And by the way, welcome. Thank you for joining in today. All right, so this was my aha moment though. Where did that go? Let's put these dies back where they belong so I don't lose something. Okay, so then I took a piece of basic black cardstock. And again, this is just for the contrast. Okay, Shirley, if you have an old cutter, you can build up your sandwiching to add more thickness to get your dies to go through and make that cut. I guess that's all I can suggest to make that work for you. All right, so where's that other big die? Okay, this is the one that actually went in the machine, if you remember from the beginning. Okay, and it doesn't look like it does anything, but it does. If you cut this out all by itself, you get this. So there's no embossing on this, there's no nothing. However, it becomes a nice little shadow. Wait, let me get all these little pieces out of here. A nice little shadow behind this embossed part, so that you've got that shadow behind it. And so that's what, again, my aha moment was, and what I started playing around with something else then to give this a little twist. So if that makes any sense, this is what goes in the embossing folder to cut and emboss on this end. Just as a little quick review, that goes in, okay? Leaving this part out. You don't really need to worry about that at that point. You could, but you don't need to. So that's what gives you the embossing and the cutting before all the fine detail comes out. Then taking that away, this goes back in with this part. I guess this is the teacher in me. I've got to review and go back over things again. Then this goes back in so that you can, excuse me, that does not go back in the embossing folder. Then this goes back on so that you can just cut it and get all those fine details. See all those little holes? So you really only use the embossing folder that way. You can still use the embossing folder just to get a plain embossed piece without doing any cutting. You can do so much with this when you just kind of think outside the box a little bit. So I think I've got some other pieces there. Here, let me see this one. Okay, this one, not a real favorite card, but I think this is one of the first ones that I did. This is just the embossing folder, no cutting, but I did cut that little thing out and added a little stamped image there. So think about 3 or 4, maybe 5 different ways you can use this with or without any of the dies. So if you're still with me, and I haven't lost you, thank you for, yes, pretty, but just you wait. Oh my gosh. This is what gets me excited, and then I don't know where to stop. I don't know where to quit. So again, the black and white is such a popular design anyway. I don't know if people really like black and white for Christmas so much, but again, I did that for the contrast so that you could see how that adds that shadow around there. All right, so let's not lose those dies. Get those out of the way, and let me show you what's next. So I'm done with the machine for right now. So get that out of the way. So this was my thought. Yes, Christmas is coming. Let's see, did I mention? Christmas is 138 days away. Autumn is 43 days away. So how about we make a card that focuses on autumn and use some of our designer paper. So I have cut this one out of designer paper that is, this is the Beauty of the Earth designer paper that can be found in the annual catalog. And it is just stunning. So I thought it would be good with this. So here's this one with that blue background. Show these real quick. So just good for fall. And into Christmas. I think this one could be good for Christmas. Here's a beautiful one with trees. Oh, that one's awesome. There's that. Here's this one. That one I'm going to show. And another green. And there's that one too. And just as a matter of information, our designers at Stampin' Up! Do all of these from watercolor. They watercolor the images and then they send them off to be created into paper. And when you see a piece of paper like this, it's designed to be cut down the center, and then you could make 6 cards out of this one design. So there's just so many opportunities and options for creating beautiful projects. So let's get back to this. This part is already done. And I have cut this detailed piece out, and help me decide, do I want to put the white piece behind it, or one of the colors in the paper is cinnamon cider, and that's a color I don't use very often. And the colors in here, we've got Mary Merlot, a couple of the papers have bumblebee, we've got a lot of greens in here, and then there's the cinnamon cider. So white or cinnamon cider, because this is going to go on, there's the cider. This is going to go on a piece of cardstock of Mary Merlot that is 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. And then on this side, I have scored it again at 2 3/4, which is half of this. And then I ran this through the, I have to look and see what the name of that is, the Bark 3D embossing folder. And I'm going to create a little fun fold with this. So it's going to open like this. So nobody has given me an idea. So I'm going to go with, actually I'm going to go with the cinnamon cider, and make this card, because it's going to have a white base on the inside. So we will still have white on the inside. So let's add some glue to this. This is actually going to be a birthday card. Carol says the cinnamon. Okay, Carol, you're the first one who made a comment, so that's what I'm going to go with. All right. So let's get some glue here. And you know, with the designer paper, you just hate to cut into it because there's always the other side that's pretty too. But let's get this up in the air so I can see what I'm doing. There's so much color on here. Just adding dots on all of the fine detail at the end, and hope it doesn't ooze out a little bit. Just little dots, little dots, little dots. Okay, that'll be good. You can always pick it up and add more to it if I need to. and make sure that I've got this going in the right direction. There we go. And get that glue. Oh, thank you, Shirley, for letting me know. Today's your daughter's birthday. Happy birthday to her. So there, I'm going to turn this over. I've got glue on my fingers now, so let me see if I can get some of that off of there. So let's add this down here. So now I have a base that I can glue onto here. Just this part is going to get adhered. So let me put the white on the inside. Boy, when you get that green glue on your fingers, it's like, eek! You want to get it off of there. All right, so there we've got that white. I'm going to add this here. Before I do that, I'm going to stamp the sentiment. And for this, I'm bringing out my old favorite, is this Biggest Wish. And I found out by testing it that the happy in the script, not the big words, but the happy and birthday will fit in this center part that will go in here. So I'm going to stamp that first in Mary Merlot, and I've already added those to a block so that they'll both be stamped at the same time. Let's get the Mary Merlot here. And I always like to stamp it on my scrap paper first to make sure it's nice and dark and the positioning is good. And I believe those will both fit. Pardon my head if it's in the way here. Yes, they both fit. Perfect. And there was enough of a cushion under here because I've got lots of these pieces of paper that I did not put a piercing mat under there, which you normally would want to use with the photopolymer. Well, congratulations, 44 years old. That's a good age. So let's add dimensionals to this. And 50, oh, so they were both born in August. Perfect. I've got some September birthdays coming up, so I thought these would be good for September. So I'm going to add, going overboard a little bit with the dimensionals. I think it's because my fingers are sticky anyway. So everything's sticking to my fingers. They're not even nicely placed there. All right, so let's put this in the center. Okay, tap that down a little bit. And now, keep in mind, I'm going to add this to the front, but I want to only add adhesive from pretty much that H over this way. Don't get any adhesive over here, or you will not be able to open the card. So kind of turning that over. Let's see what little, kind of this little dot up here, okay? So right around here, I don't want to go beyond that. So, can you believe it's August, and I know some schools are already starting back. That's amazing. I'm just glad I'm not one of them. I know there are lots of teachers on this that you're glad too. Okay, so there we go with that. So now this is going to open like this. So it's kind of like a little fun fold. I think there's probably a name for it. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. So there's that. And then these are the in color square gems that go with the 20 to 22 in colors. So this is where we have the bumblebee, the cinnamon cider, what's the pink? Escapes me. Misty Moonlight and Just Jade. So forget. Thanks, Carol. So let's add some bling to this a little bit and use a take the pick tool. I've got the pick end here, so I'm probably gonna poke myself if I don't watch out. Okay, so let's use some of the bumblebee. I think that's a good accent. Maybe one of the cinnamon ciders, because we've got the cider in the background there, and maybe a large on the bumblebee. Let's put that over here, get that out of the way. Okay, thank you. So there, that is the final card. I have some samples, but before I do that, let me show you, if you've been following, back in, okay, I looked it up, episode 35, I wrote it down, I think. And June 28th was when I showed how to do these envelopes made out of a 6x12 piece of designer paper. And I've been going crazy making these envelopes. They don't always have to match, but look how perfect that will be. I did order some larger than return envelope, return address envelope labels to go on the front, because this is a little bit too busy to write just on there. So I ordered some of those from Amazon, Avery labels, so I can write on those. And now you've got the coordinating envelope that will match. And again, that was on June 28th. So you can either check back and look to see on here, or you can follow me on YouTube, because I post all of these on YouTube as soon as I'm done with the live, and it's usually a couple hours before that gets going on there. Shirley, all of this from this card, actually this paper is in the annual catalog, and obviously the designer or the paper is in the annual catalog, but this stamp set and dies and this hybrid are all in the mini catalog. They're all in here. But let me, before I let you go, see some of these other samples that I came up with. Again, when I work on these usually on Sunday, I just get lost down here in my little cave and I never know when to quit. So here are two other cards. Do I have two? Yeah. Here are two other cards with the same design. This one isn't the fun fold, but it's with the same paper. And I used Friendships Refresh the Soul, and that comes from the Beauty of Friendship stamp set that is actually the one that coordinates with the designer paper. So this is beautiful. This is annual catalog. So here's the blue. Love that one. And these little gems on here are this brushed metallic adhesive, and they're in the mini catalog. And then I added some gold cording back here. And again, this has that little shadow behind it. I just did not glue down the whole thing like I did this time. So it steps up a little bit. So that's that one. Here's one that's in green. Same thing, friendships refresh the soul, with the fun fold and the coordinating envelope. And this looks like camouflage, so that kind of reminds me of my little Marine, because she wears that. Now here was one before I decided to go with the designer paper, and I used the blending brushes to add all the color, and then I sponged the Whisper White all over that with a sponge dauber. And there's another birthday card. So there's that one. Here is, let's see, this was the one I did today. And here is a just thinking of you this festive season, or just a plain old green and white Christmas card, brushed around the edge with the white and the embossing behind. And then this one just as a sample so that you can see the white, how that fits on the green. And when I started playing with the greens, does anybody want to take a look, take an idea, take a hint, whatever, how many different greens we have in this catalog? Not this, all the catalogs. Okay? Most all of our colors are in the annual catalog. So how many different greens do we have? I was shocked and amazed. Okay, and then the last one to show you is this one. And this is where I took the the DSP from the celebration and put that little background behind there, and then sponged around with the white, thinking of you this festive season. And as a little hint on this, I cut this out of that background so that I didn't waste all of that. So actually, this is what I got. I guess I didn't put it back in here, did I? Yes. I cut this out of the center of that so I can use this for another project, because it gets covered up anyway. Can't see it. So why waste it? So cut something out of the center. We're good to go, and I can use that elsewhere. So that was my little hint and tip for the day. And let's see, here's our card. I lost it already. Okay. I laid it aside, but there's the envelope. I lost the card. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you hanging around for 43, almost 45 minutes. So I will see you next week and see what we come up with. Maybe the dahlias, I don't know. Thanks, Sue. Thanks, Carol. Thank you all for being here today. And take care, stay cool, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.